quiet.
It's a still picture.
Is Jack warming?
I'm Jack Warman.
1 second. That's related to Nussbaum?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
I am Jack Warman. Says it on the
The different.
Okay, Rabbi Say, good evening everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We have a long night tonight because we have a Chumash year afterwards and a Mishnah share, so it's a full docket tonight. With 30 Zoomers already starting, we're co-sponsored by the Rezepkowitz family in honor of their parents. We're co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chazan, Lefu Shlema for Shoshana Bas Panina and Simone Bas Rachel. We're co-sponsored by Binyamin Rivlin, Lili Nishmas Yitzchak Ben Avram Yehuda Levi. We're co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin for the schus of his children Eli, Orit, and Ora. We're sponsored by Baruch Goldwasser, Lefu Shlema for Moshe Meir Ben Esther Bradel, and Dov Meir Ben Chaya Gittel, and our Kosatoy for the share. We're also sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zev Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev, that the neshama should have an aliyah. We learn for Miriam Kayla Bas Sarah Miro. We also learn for Hersh Tzvi Alevi Ben Nechama and Chaim Yisrael Ben Chayarisha. They should have a refuah shalema b'sei shecha Yisrael. And we are now over 30 Zoomers as we welcome in Mark Frankel finally found the shir. He finally found. Mark, you forgot our coordinates and Gedalia angle. It's good to see you, Mark, and it's good to see you, Gedalia. We welcome in Chaim Kramer, Yaakov Warman, Saba, Nachum Umansky, Irving Fishbaum, Mo Kushner, Barish Gessemin, Ruvain Shannon, Shalom Fogel, A.B. Spry, Yitzi Fuchs, Eddie Chazan, Baruch Ian, Michal Chavin, Barry Cement, Dr. Guy, Nachman Chapler, Stephen Holtzman, Dr. Black, Mel Zachter, Reb Kaniel, Mark Frankel, Gedalia Engel, Moshe Lehman, Naftali Jablin, Ilya Shutman, Rabbi Kranz, A. Barbach, Avram Rezepkowitz, Yitzi Muller, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, David Helfgott on Kol well, not Kol but probably on Kol Zoom. We are holding this evening by Tojma, which is 6 lines from the top of Samach Daled Amud Aleph. Remember, we established yesterday that the real reason that the Jews engaged in idolatry was not because they believed in idolatry, but that it gave them a permission to live a promiscuous life. Because if they accepted the idols, and the idols did all kinds of incest and promiscuity, they could do promiscuity. So the Gemara says, Toshma, vayizaku b'kol gadol el Hashem Elokeim. And they cried out in a loud voice to Hashem. My Emor, Amar Rav Yehuda v'yisei Rav Yonasan, Vai, woe, the Chacham said, Hainu da achrevei lebeisa. This Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah is what caused our temple to be destroyed. V'kalyalei chala, it caused our Kodesh, the holy, to be burnt. V'katlinu l'tzadikei, it caused the righteous to be killed. V'aglinu liYisrael me'arayu, and it caused us to be exiled from our land. V'adayin hu meraked beinam. The Yetzirah of Avodah Zarah is still dancing in our midst. Klum yoavis alon, did you give it to us at all, el likbule be'agra, that we should get reward for not worshiping it? You know what? Lo yihuban inan, we don't want the temptation, v'lo yagre ba'inan, and we don't want the reward. So you see that they wanted Avodah Zarah. Why do you say that they didn't want it? So the Gemara answers, Basar da'avikubei. This is only after they started practicing it, then they got attached to it. You know, that's the way the Yetzirah does things. He gets it to grow on you. So what did they do? Yas v'tlasa yuma b'tanisa. This is, the magic bullet, what we used on Purim. a 3-day fast, a 72-hour fast. They fasted 72 hours, Bo Rachme, and they prayed for mercy to get rid of the Yetzer Hara of idolatry. Nafaklu Piska Merakia, a note fell down from the sky, the Havik Sibba Emes, that was written on a truth. In other words, that Hashem was masking to the request that it's now a Yetzer Hara that's too hard. It's a Gezeira She'ein Hatzibur Yochel Lamed Ba. And by the way, it's very appropriate for the Parsha this week, because this week's Parsha is Midvar Sheker Tircha. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Shema Mino, we could conclude from this that Chaysamai Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the seal of Hashem, his signature, is Emes. So Nafa Kiguria Denura Mebeis Kachei HaKadoshim. The Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah came out of the Holy of Holies like a lion of fire. Amalu Navi li Yisrael, the Navi said to Klal Yisrael, Hainu Yitzra d'Avodah Zarah. You should know that that's the Yetzer of Avodah Zarah. We got to grab it. Bahadi de Tafsile, when they grabbed it, obviously they got themselves all protected from the fire, and they grabbed the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah. When they grabbed it, Ishtamit binisamine, they pulled out a hair from it, v'ozul kale, and its voice cried out, and the cry went so far, ba'arba meya parsei, 400 parseis, that's 1,200 mil. Amru, they were very afraid, because if it had such a cry, then perhaps Hashem will have mercy on it. You have to know, when people cry out, the Rebbeinu Shalom listens. So they were afraid if this Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah has such a powerful cry, maybe Hashem will have mercy on it. Amalei Navi, so the Navi said, you're going to have to drown out its cry. You're going to have to put it in a soundproof cauldron. Shadyua beduda de Avra, put it into a cauldron of lead, v'kasyua be'avra, and cover it with lead, the shayiv kale, and that will drown out its voice. Dichsiv, and this is backed up by a pasuk, Dichsiv vayomru zois harisha, they said that this is the wicked one, vayashlecha isa el toicha efa, and they threw it into a cauldron the size of an ephah, and they covered it with a stone of lead to drown out its cry. Very important thing over here, that even though it's a Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah that caused so many Jews to go astray, if it would cry out to Hashem, Hashem would listen. That's the big thing. Ein tefillah chayzeres reikam. No tefillah is returned empty-handed. So now they said, okay, so maybe we could do something also about the Avodah Zarah of immorality. Imre, they said, Hoyel v'eis ratzanhu, since it's a time of favor, niboy rachmei ayitzrei da'aveira. Let's ask for mercy about the evil inclination to be immoral. Aveira stam aveira in Shas is promiscuity. Bo rachmei, so they prayed that there shouldn't be a desire for the temptation of the flesh, and imser biyadayu, the Yetzer Hara of the flesh was also given over to them. Chavshua, they incarcerated it tlosa yume, 3 days. You know what happened? No animals made it. Iboi beyasa bas yuma, they needed a fresh egg l'chayla for a sick person, v'lo yashkeru, because the chickens weren't laying eggs. There was no Yetzer Hara for procreation. So Imre hechi navid, what should we do? Niboi palga, we should ask for mercy halfway, that people should have sex, but not forbidden sex. Palga merakia lo yave. Hashem doesn't do things in halves. So what did they do? Kachlinu le'ene. They blinded the eyes of the Yetzer Hara of immorality. Ahani bay, and it helped the lo igre inish b'kroivaise, that people don't have taivas to sleep with their sister, with their daughter, with their mother, but they do have other temptations of the flesh. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rav. Maisa b'nochris achas, there was a Gentile woman. Now remember, there is a disgusting idol worship. When worshiping Pa'ar, the way to worship Pa'ar is to defecate in front of it. The person ate laxative foods like beets, and then went to the bathroom in front of it. So the Gemara tells us, Maisa b'nochris achas, there was a Maisa with a Gentile woman. She was a woman of Seichel. She was very sick. Amra, she said, Im tamadahi isha michayle, if she gets better, she'll go and worship all the idols in the world. That way she'll be assured that she'll at least thank the right person. Amda, she got better. When she reached the church of Pa'ar, she asked the priest, how do you worship this idol? Amrullah, they told her, you eat beets, v'shaisin shecher, and you drink beer, or masrizin b'fanah, and you defecate in front of it. Amra, she said, I'm not doing that. Mutav shetazar isha l'chola. It would be better for me to become sick again. I'm not doing such a religious activity. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. And yet, the Jews were guilty of it. Atem Beis Yisrael einon came. You, Klal Yisrael, are not that way. Hanitzmadim lebal pa'ar. Rather, you attached yourself to Baal Pa'ar. Isn't that a tragedy? Klal Yisrael followed Baal Pa'ar. Now, what's the lashon of nitzmadim? Kitsamid pasel, like a tightly fit cover. You, however, in praise of religious Jews, you cleave to Hashem, like two dates that stick one to another. But Masnisatana, in a Bryce, it says, Hanitzmadim lebal pa'ar, we weren't as attached to the Baal Pa'ar as we are to Hashem. Hanitzmadim lebal pa'ar kitzamed al yedei isha, like a bracelet around the woman's hand that's loose and goes up and down. But v'atem adveikim b'Hashem alikechem, but you cleave to Hashem, devukim mamish, you actually cleave to Hashem. Tan Rabbanan, Maisa b'Safta ben Alis. This was a person, Safta ben Alis, or Safta from the town of Alis. Shehiskir chamoyrei lenachri achas, that he leased his donkey for a goya, for a Gentile woman. Kevan shegia lepa'ar, he gave her a ride, and when she reached the church of Pa'ar, Amrullah, she said to him, Hamtein ache kones, wait till I go in, ve'etzek, and I do my devotions. La'achar shiyatza, after she came out, Amallah, so he said to her, Af you also hamteini, wait for me, until I go in and come out. So she was surprised. She was surprised that he was going to venture to do this avodah of the Pa'ar. Amrullah, she said to him, V'lo Yehudiata, aren't you a Jew? As a Jew, what are you doing with this kind of avodah as we welcome in Michael, it's good to have you. Yitzi Muller, it's good to have you. I think somebody else just came in. Shimon Deer, it's good to have you. 35 Zoomers after 9 p.m. Thank you very much, Rabbi Isai. Amallah. So he said to her, now actually, what do you care? But actually he went to disgrace the Pa'ar. Nichnes par b'fanav, he moved his bowels, v'kinach b'chaytmai, and he wiped himself with the nose of the idol. Now he did it to disgrace the idol. But but the priests of the idolatry, they praised him. No one ever did such a service, because this was even greater than just defecating. Now, the Gemara tells us, however, that if somebody goes to the bathroom to pa'ar, even though he thought that he was doing it to disgrace the idol, he's still chayav achatas, because that's its service. If he moves his bowels, it is its service. Even though he intends to disgrace it, he still would be chayav achatas. The same thing, Azarik Evan the Merkulis, if he throws a rock at Hercules, remember we said Hercules is worshipped by throwing rocks at it, Zui Apadasai, this is its service, and Afagab the Mechavan Lamergame, even though he has intent to stone it and shame it, he's still going to be chayav achatas. Rav Menashe have a ka'azel lebeit turasa. Rav Menashe went to Beit Turasa. Amrulai avodah zarah hi dekoyhacha. They told him there's an avodah zarah here. So, it says that we should destroy avodah zarah. So Shakol Pisa, he took a clod of earth, shadabei, and threw it at the avodah zarah. Amrulai Merkulis, it's Merkulis, and that's its type of worship. Amalahu, he said to them, Azarik Evan Lamerkanis Taran. That's only if you throw a stone for Merkulis. I didn't do it for Merkulis, I did it to destroy it. Asa Shal Bei Midrash, he asked in the Beis Medrash, Amalei Azarik Evan B'Merkulis Tanan, if you throw a stone at Merkulis, even if you do it to even though you had in mind to stone it, it's still an isser. So he said, you know what? Then I'll go and I'll remove my stone. Amalhu Ezel Ishkale, I'll go and remove my stone. He said, no, that's no good either, because that's a service of Merkulis. Because when you remove the stone, you make more room for other stones. Amalei Echad Anoitla ve'Echad Anoisna Chayiv, whether you remove a stone or put the stone there, you're chayiv, because kol chada v'chada, each stone that's removed, rafcha lechaberta shavik, leaves room for another one to be thrown. Now we know that the Torah says that there is a capital offense of noisein zarai lemoilach. Now there is a machloikis, as we'll see shortly in the Gemara, whether Moilach, I already made a bracha, Rabbi Yisai. We'll see that there's a machlokes in the Gemara, whether Moilach is an avodah zarah, or it's just an appointed authority like a melech. In order to be chayiv for this offense, a person has to do two things. He has to hand over his child to the priests of Moilach. Then they have to give it back to him, and he has to pass it through fire. That means that there's a fire on one side, a fire on the other side, and he passes it through the fire. He doesn't burn the child. But that is a worship Moilach. Let's see it inside. Hanoisin mizaray l'Moilach, a person who gives his seed to the priests of Moilach, Einoi Chayiv, is not Chayiv at Sheyimser l'Moilach, until he gives the child to the priests. Then they give it back to him, v'yavir be'esh, and then he passes it through between two fires. Moisel l'Moilach, if he gave the child to the priests, but v'lo have a beish, but he didn't pass it through the fire, or have a beish, he passed it through the fire, v'lo moisel l'Moilach, he didn't give it to the priests of Moilach. Einoi chayiv, he has to do both. At sheyimser l'Moilach, he has to give it to the priests of Moilach, v'yaver be'esh, and pass it through the fire. And now we learn the Gemara towards the bottom of Samach Daled Amud Aleph, Soid Hashem liYireyav. We want to remind you that we have, after this year, the pleasure of having a Chumash here, and I should tell you that I am broadcasting now where Dr. Udell has just joined us as our 36th Zoomer of the evening. 36 Zoomers on a 9 p.m. start time, with my great gratitude to everybody to stretching their schedules. And Dr. Udell, we are holding by the new Gemara, which is 7 lines from the bottom of Samach Daled Amud Aleph. We are broadcasting now from Deerfield Beach, Florida. I drove today 200 miles from Orlando to Deerfield Beach. We're grateful to our Aksanya. We're renting an apartment from Avi Stern, the Stern family. So we thank them for making their apartment available to us. And we learned that they should have happiness in their home here. So the Gemara says, Kitani Avodah Zarah v'Kitani Molech. It teaches Avodah Zarah, and then it teaches another category called Molech. Amar Rabbi Avin says, Tanan, this Mishnah is Commander Amar Molech Lav Avodah Zarah. Molech is not in the category of Avodah Zarah. Molech is authority, where they give it over to these authority, and then they give it back and pass it through the fire. The Tanya, Echad l'Molech v'Echad l'Shar Avodah Zarah Chayim. The Tanna Kama holds, no, this is a type of idol worship to pass it through the fire, and whether you did this to Molech or you did it to another Avodah Zarah by passing it through the fire, you would be chayiv, because this is a mode of idol worship. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon Aimer, no, l'Molech chayiv. This is only a specific thing of Molech. Shalei l'Molech pater. Since it's not a type of idolatry, if you did it to another idol, you wouldn't be chayiv. Amar Abaye, Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, Reb Chanina ben Antignos, Amru Davar Echad. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon and Reb Chanina ben Antignos both say the same thing. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon Hada Amran, that it's not an idol. Reb Chanina ben Antignos, the Tani Reb Chanina ben Antignos, Aimer, Mipnei Mat Tafsa Torah Lashon Molech. Why does the Torah use the language of Molech? Kol shehem lichu aleihem, whatever you point over yourself as a king, afilu tzrar, even a pebble, vafilu kisem, even a toothpick. In other words, these are all types of kings or authorities, not Avodah Zarah. Says the Gemara, Rava Amar, the difference between the two is Molech Aroi Ikebenayu. In other words, according to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, it has to be more of a permanent authority, while Reb Chanina ben Antignos says it could even be a temporary authority, like a stone or a twig. And now we start Daf Samach Daled Amud Beis.
What did he mean over there when he said Molech Chayim, Shalom Molech Pater?
It means that if he did this kind of worship of passing through the fire in front of Pa'ar or in front of Merkulus, you wouldn't be chayiv, because it's not a type of idol worship.
But for Molech itself, it would be that.
Yes.
So what does he mean it's not an Avodah Zarah? Everybody agrees it's Avodah Zarah.
No, according to I don't understand what I explained. According to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, it's not an Avodah Zarah. The Molech is an authority, and if you give it over to the Mesharsim of this authority, and you do this, you're chayiv. It's not a type of it's not idolatry.
It's not a type of Avodah Zarah, but what do you chayiv for then?
Because the Torah said, if you do this, you're chayiv.
Oh, but it's not also Avodah Zarah.
Yes, that's what it means. It's not Avodah Zarah. And that's why to any other Avodah Zarah, you're not chayiv, because it's not a mode of idol worship.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, Amar Rabbi Yanai, Einoi chayiv, you're not chayiv at sheyimserenu l'misharse Avodah Zarah. You're not chayiv until you give it over to these priests. Shenema umizaracha loisitein, from your seed you should not give lahaver l'mayl. So you have to give it over to the priests. Tanya Nami Hachi, Yochel Heber V'loy Maser Yehi Chayiv. I might think that if you pass it through the fire, but you don't give it to the priest, you're Chayiv. Talmud Leimer is Leisitein. You're not allowed to give it. So first of all, you have to give it over to the priest. Similarly, Maser L'Meilech V'loy Hever. If you gave it over to the priest, you gave your child over to the priest, but you didn't pass it through the fire, Yochel Yehi Chayiv, Talmud Leimer, Lahavir. Only if you did it, Lahavir, to pass it through the fire. So you need to give it and also pass it through the fire. Now, Moser, if you gave it, but Vehever Shaloi L'Meilech, but you passed it through the fire, not for Meilech. No, it's not for this worship. Yochel Yehi Chayiv. I might think you're Chayiv. Talmud Leimer L'Meilech. It has to be specifically for Meilech. Masa Vehever L'Meilech. If let's say you gave it to the priest and you passed it for Meilech, but not through fire. V'lei be'esh. Yochel Yehi Chayiv. I might think you're Chayiv. Nemer kan Lahavir. It says over here Lahavir. You can't pass your son or your daughter through fire. Malahalon be'esh, just like in that pasuk, it's only with fire. Afkan be'esh, umad kan meilech. It has to be passed through. Aflahalon meilech. So you need to give it to the priest. They give it back to you. You got to pass it through the fires for meilech in order to be chayiv. Amar Rav Achabrei de Rava, Hever kol zara. If you passed all of your children through the fire, potter. Now this is a real loophole. You did it not with one child, but all of your children, then you're potter. Shenema mizaracha. Only if it's from your children. V'loy kol zaracha, but not all of your children. By Rav Ashi, haviru sumamau. If you passed a blind child. Now, we're going to see that it's only a child that would have been able to walk through himself. But it's a blind child, Yoshinma. What if the child was sleeping? Ben Benoyo Ben Bitoyma. What about a grandchild, the son of your son, or the son of your daughter? Tivshat Miyachada. We'll see that you're chayiv even for grandchildren. The Tanya, Ki Mizar Acha Nasan Lamelech. From your seed, mizarai, nasan l'meilech. Matam l'omer. Lefi shenem alo yimatzi b'chom ma'aver b'noyo b'itay b'eish. You shouldn't pass through your son or your daughter. Ein li ela b'noyo b'itay. I only know a son and a daughter. Ben b'noyo ben b'itay minai. What about a grandchild, the son of your son, or the son of your daughter? Talmud l'omer b'sitay mizarai. Any of your descendants. Tana pasach b'chi mizarai. The Tana starts b'chi mizarai, b'salak b'sitay mizarai. So why does it say b'sitay mizarai? Drasha achina, zarai, your seed. Ein li ela zera kosher. I only know if it's a kosher child. What if it's a mamzer? Zera pasel minayin. Talmud Leimer, another pasuk for sitay mizarai, any kind of descendant, even a mamzer. From Rabbi Yehuda, einoi chayiv ad sheyavirenu derech havara. You're only chayiv when you pass it through. Heichi dami. Amar Abaya says shraga delivnei b'mitzei. There's a low wall of brick between the two fires. Nura mahagisa. Nura Mahagisa, a fire on one side and fire on the other side, and you pass it over the wall of brick through the fire, you're chayiv. Rava says actually it was Mishvarta de Purim. We're getting ready. It's getting close to Purim. So it's like on Purim, they used to have a type of merriment. It's a dangerous type of merriment. But some people, like to do scary things. They get a thrill out of it, We were in Orlando, and I didn't go on any of them. I'm not crazy. I don't do anything for recreation that I would have to bench Gaimel for. But you saw these people standing, not sitting, standing on roller coasters. And what are they doing? As it's going around and they're upside down, they're screaming their heads off. And I've been told that people enjoy this. They enjoy it. So this is they had a type of merriment on Purim that they used to jump over pits of fire. There were pits that had full of fire, and they used to jump over the pits of fire. So Rava says this is the meaning of being Maver L'Melech, to pass them over a pit of fire. Tanya Kavasi de Rava, we have a raya like Rava, Ein Chayiv Achi Yavirenu Derech Havara, a type of passing, Havira Beregel Potter. But if you pass just by walking and not by jumping, you're Potter. Ve'ein Chayiv Elal Yoytze Yerecha, you only Chayiv for a descendant, not for a father, not for a brother, only for a descendant. Okay, it's B'noyo B'itay Chayiv, your son, your daughter, your Chayiv, Ovid V'imay, but your father, your mother, Achi B'achaysay, your brother, your sister, Potter. What about if you pass yourself through the fire? Hever Atzmai Potter. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon Mechayiv. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon says, you're Chayiv, Echad L'Melech, the Echad L'Shar Avodah Zarah, whether for Melech or another Avodah Zarah, you're Chayiv. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, like we said, Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon holds that this is not a mode of idol worship. L'Melech Chayiv, Shaloi L'Melech Potter. Now, what's the reason why Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon says that if you pass yourself through the fire, you're Chayiv? Amar Ula, my time at Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. Amakra, the pasuk says, Lo Yimatzei B'cha, there shouldn't be found in you. That means B'cha Ba'atzmecha. Even if you pass yourself through the fire, that's also prohibited. Says Gemara, Rabbanan lo yidarshei B'cha. Rabbanan don't darshan B'cha, but Tanan, Aveidasai v'Aveidas Aviv, if you lost something and your father lost something. So you lost your wallet and your father lost his wallet. Whose wallet should you look for first? They were in two different directions. Shaloi kodemes, your wallet comes first. Ra'aminon, and we say my time. Efes kilo yiyah b'cha evyon. There shouldn't be in you a poor person. You have to worry about yourself first. Shaloi kodemes l'shel kol adam. Says the Gemara. So you see that you see that we do darshan the word b'cha. So what do you mean that the Rabbanan don't darshan the word b'cha? So says the Gemara. I think there's that's what I thought. There's an extra vav over here. The vav doesn't fit in. The Marshal takes out the vav. And it's also Rashi's girsa. We take out the vav. Hasam, over there, it's not a drasha from B'cha, but it's a drasha from Efes. Efes is extra. It could have just said, Ki lo yeh b'cha evyon. It won't be a poor person. Why does it say Efes? It means that you should make sure that there shouldn't be a poor person by taking care of yourself first. Reb Yosi bar Chanina, first wide line on the bottom of Daf Samach Daled Amud Beis. Reb Yosi bar Chanina, Shalish Krisis b'Avodah Zarah Lama. Why does it say the penalty of Karis 3 times by Avodah Zarah? Achas l'kedarka, one when you worship that idol in its normal fashion. V'achas l'shaloi kedarka, when you worship it not in its normal fashion. Like, for example, if its fashion is to defecate and you sacrifice or you offer libation. V'achas l'moilech, and one for the category of moilech. Says the Gemara, Olamanda Amar Moilech Avodah Zarah. If according to the Mandi Amar that Moilech is Avodah Zarah, then Karis b'Moilech Lamali. Why did it have to say an extra Karis? that's doing it in its normal way. It already said the chorus for its normal way. Says the Gemara, it's coming to tell you, L'mavir b'noi shaloi kedarka. It's coming to tell you that if a person passes the child like kedarka, in other words, the man Yoma that says that it's an avodah zarah, it's coming to tell you that if you do the worship of Melech for a different idol, passing the child for a different idol, you would be chayiv, and that's the third chorus. Says the Gemara, there's actually a machlokes which we'll learn about in Masechtas Avodah Zarah, what the sin of megadef is. We always translate megadef as blasphemy, to curse Chas v'Shalom Hashem. But there is an opinion that megadef is singing to idolatry, and therefore it's a mode of idolatry. So Laman Amar megadef Avodah Zarah, he chorus be megadef lamali. Why does it have to say chorus by megadef? That's serving an idol in its normal way. Says the Gemara, Likidisanya, for what the Braisha says. He kares tikares. He kares ba'olam hazeh. Person is cut off in this world. Tikares la'olam haba. They're cut off in the next world. Divrei Rabbi Kiva. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel. V'aloi kvar nema v'nichrasa. It also says a third time v'nichrasa. V'chi shloisha ilamim yesh. Are there three worlds? Ela v'nichrasa ba'olam hazeh. Cut off in this world. He kares, cut off in this world means that a person will die young, before 60. He kares la'olam haba, la'aleinu. He kares la'olam haba, he'll be cut off in the next world. Tikares, why does it say it again? Well, for emphasis, Dibra Torah Koloshim B'nei Adam, the Torah teaches in the vernacular of people and repeats it to make an emphasis. Okay, Rabbi say we are now not going to pass go. We're not going to collect $200. We're going to go straight, and I mean straight because it is late already, straight to the Chumash here, which I know you've all been waiting for. We had 37. We had no questions now. We had 37 Zoomers here.